I just love the garden. Right now I'm in front of one of my chamomile patches. And if you guys are new around here, my husband and I live in this log cabin, and we have an enclosed garden where we have raised beds and we grow and harvest most of our own food. So the chamomile flowers, when you're picking them every day, they're sort of like, you know, your sugar snap peas. By picking them every day, it's gonna force it to produce more and more. But if you don't pick it every day, you'll just get that small amount. So that's why with these little flowers, if I keep picking them, it's gonna bloom all throughout the season, all the way to the fall. And then that way I'll have lots of chamomile tea to last me the whole year. I even have chamomile growing in my little potato patch here. It is a great companion plant. Now, chamomile is a very powerful antibacterial and antifungal type plant to put with your garden. And the cool thing about it, helps prevent with mold, fungus, mildew, blight, things like that. So it's a great plant, and I know a lot of people don't utilize and put this plant in their garden, and it really does a lot of good work. It's a good worker. So I definitely, over the past couple years, have put a lot of chamomile in all my plants, especially now my tomato plants. And speaking of tomatoes, here I have some chamomile growing in my tomato cages. And look at my tomatoes this year, they are rocking. And you know, last year we had a very wet summer. This year I think it's more wet than it was last year. And I had blight like you couldn't imagine starting very early in the season. And I don't know if it's because of the chamomile, because I didn't grow chamomile with my tomatoes last year. So stay tuned. If you guys haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and you guys can kind of find out my little tricks to my tomato and our little garden tour that we're going to have. And make sure when you guys are picking, you're just picking the flower. And you know what? When people buy chamomile in the stores, generally because it's highly processed, a lot of times you only get the little yellow dome of the chamomile flower. You don't get the actual flower. And then that way you're kind of taking away from some of its benefits. And the benefits of chamomile are huge. In herbalism, they will call the chamomile plant, it's a nervine type plant. And nervines help to nourish and tone your nervous system. So let's say somebody is suffering anxiety, or maybe you have things going on with your stomach. Maybe you have upset stomach, or you're having stomach problems, or maybe you just want to relax, because a lot of times you hear using chamomile to help you sleep, but it does more than that. It just really helps, just helping your nervous system. And it's one of those herbs, if you do it consistently, it will help you more and more. So Doug and I really enjoy having a cup of the chamomile tea at night to relax us and just kind of get us nice and relaxed to get a good night's sleep. Now I want to show you guys something. Right here I just had a pot and I had a bunch of seeds and I just kind of sprinkled them in there. And then we had a rainstorm and it just kind of pushed them into the dirt. And I have lots of chamomile plants now. So what I'm going to do is take this whole pot and I'm going to put it in a little bed so that I have a great big huge bed of my chamomile growing. Because it is very easy. And the neat thing about it, a lot of people say when you smell it with your fingers, it kind of has a slight smell like apples. And I just love it. It's become really one of my favorite plants to grow and add as a companion plant to my garden, because I have it almost everywhere in all my different beds. flowers are picked, now I'll show you the next process. Well, now we're in the outdoor kitchen. And this is where all the magic happens, and this is where we process all of our bounty from our garden. And so we spend a lot of time here in the summer months, because in the summer months it gets kind of warm in our cabin. So this is great. It's really well ventilated and we have a lot of fun out here. But before I go on and show you how to process these chamomile flowers, I know a lot of people are thinking, what about all the greens? So I picked a couple greens to show you. They're very fuzzy. And the greens, if you would put them in your tea, they're a little bitter. So it's going to change the flavor of your chamomile tea. That's why it's so important to use the flowers. However, they are edible. They are a little bitter tasting, but they're a wonderful addition to add to your salads. So don't just let them stay out in your garden. Go ahead and use some of the greens in this, throw them into your salad just like you would do parsley or basil or something like that. Now, I really am into your health and the foods that you put in your body, letting food be your medicine. So just remember, bitter tasting foods are not bad. They're amazing, because what happens when you add bitter tasting foods into your diet, it really starts the digestive process, and then the acid in your stomach, and it's very, very helpful. So it's very important to add these bitter foods into your diet every day. These chamomile flowers would be considered a tender herb. So when we look at processing, we want to probably dehydrate them. So I'm going to dehydrate them today in the sun oven. If you guys have a dehydrator, you can use your dehydrator. Certain herbs like your parsleys or your sage or your rosemary, they are more sturdy. So they are easier to air dry as opposed to these tender little flowers here. So that's why we're going to be dehydrating them and using the sun today. Now, I have my handy dandy paperweight here, my zucchini. Are you guys getting lots of zucchini? Leave a comment below if you guys want some recipes or something for extra zucchini, because I know this time of year you're getting tons of zucchini. So what I'm going to do, it's kind of windy out, so I'm just going to put my parchment paper in this plate here so that it won't blow out when I walk outside. So I'm just going to make sure you put your flowers on your dehydrating rack and make sure they're spread out so that they're not one on top of each other. It's very important when you are dehydrating, whether you're using a sun oven or your oven, you want to put it in the lowest setting. You want this to be about 95, 100 degrees, no more, because we want to keep the medicinal benefits, because the higher temperature, that saying, heat kills. So we want to keep it very low, and we're going to let it go. I'm going to let it go all day long. So, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours. I'm going to go and check it after a few hours. So I'm going to take this outside now. I have to be very careful because it's windy. So the goal here is we want to get the moisture out of the flowers, because if you keep them moist and then you're going to go ahead and put them in a jar later, they could get mold. So make sure we get all the water out of them. Now the cool thing about the sun oven is I can adjust this however I want to adjust the temperature. So right now I'm going to be dehydrating and I want the lowest temperature. So I have this turned totally away from the sun and I have it set down low to the ground so that it won't get as much heat. And then I'll just monitor it throughout the day, but I could keep it at, right now it is right below 100 degrees, so it's perfect for dehydrating. And the one thing that you got to remember, if you guys have a sun oven, you don't want to lock it shut, because that's what will be cooking it. So what I'm going to do is set these little hooks here so that it's setting on top. Do not lock the sun oven door, because we want the airflow to get through it so it'll dehydrate properly. And I'll come back and check on this in a few hours and see how it's doing. I maybe move them around. We want to make sure we dehydrate it about 8 to 12 hours. We want to make sure it's dry to the touch. See how it just kind of crumbles like that? Now this is a mixture that I've made. You can see, of course, the little yellow guys are the chamomile flowers, and it's a mixture of lemon balm and catnip. And this is our sleepy time tea. And all three of those are good to help with the nervous system to relax the body. So Doug and I like to have a cup of this at night before we go to bed. Now, how do you store it? In a glass container. So when I'm finished dehydrating, I'll go ahead and put it in my glass container, like this. And then you want to store it in a place where there's not a lot of moisture, a cool, dry area. And of course dark, because we want to keep all of its medicinal properties in it. So now when you do make this, all you need is 2 to 3 teaspoons or so in a cup of boiling water, and then that way you'll have your tea, and then you let it steep. So very simple. You could add honey, maple syrup, you could add stevia extract to it. You can do it plain, like Doug likes his with a little honey. I like mine plain. However you like it is good. It's good. You could even add mint to it. There's so much, and all these herbs are so wonderful to grow. They're very, very simple and easy to grow where you are, whether it be in a pot, around your house. So there's no excuse for you guys not growing some kind of herb. And here's a little bonus. You can also use the chamomile. You make a tea, let it cool, and you can use it as a rinse for your hair. So you remember when you were a kid and you used to spray lemon juice on your hair to get those wonderful natural highlights? It works for both blondes and brunettes. You can use it as a rinse on your hair. Let's say you would do it at night, put it on. You could go ahead and sleep with it, and it'll bring out the natural highlights in your hair. So there you go. I walked you through how to grow it, harvest it, dehydrate it, and use it. So you just learned everything you didn't know about chamomile. So leave a comment below, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this away in my pantry, and I will look forward to seeing you guys later. Bye.